All right, let me reiterate real fast. All right, so you're going to want to do extra value mapping. Also, I look for the shadow underneath the eyelid because then it looks like the eyelid is on top of the eyeball. So I'm going to add that shadow on there. I look for any kind of shadow in the corner. Some of you guys have a lot. Some of you have a little bit. Add that in there because the only white part should be like this area and then, of course, the little speck of light. Even over here, I would add value in the corner because it's not straight up white. Sometimes your eyes look a little crazy because there's not enough value. They look like super flat and big. All right, so then it's up to you how you want to trace out your value map. Do you want to add calligraphic line? Or not? And then I would start over my guidelines. And you can press like a little bit lighter with the Sharpie if you're still not feeling 100% comfortable. So trace over my guidelines. And then you're really looking at your image. And so I would go in the same direction as what your guidelines are. And then I probably just like kind of, and you can kind of fade out a little bit by flicking away from your value map to get it to fade up a little. All right, let me do this part. Okay, then we're going to talk about eyelashes for this one too. So again, I would go over my, well, go over your value map first. Go over my guidelines of what I decided. All right, then I would kind of add in the fact that like, okay, this kind of fades down below it. And always flick away. And if it's uncomfortable for your hand, like turn it. I tend to think like actually flicking away from an area away from yourself is a little bit easier. So I would turn it upside down to get quality of line. So some people are starting to rush the mark making, but remember, it's the mark, like you guys should be spending the most time mark making. You should have been mark making for a full week before break and all this week of mark making. And if you're just trying to slap it on to get it done, why? Like why spend 4 weeks watercoloring to slap mark making on there and have it look terrible? Like question, why are you doing that? And because the most of your time spent should be mark making. All right. So for lashes, let me just get this lash line in there a little bit where it's darker. For the eyeball, same thing. Like if I wanted to add that shadow, I would add the shadow in there, even over here. Probably a couple like fading in. Like I'd look at your waterline. Is your waterline lighter or darker than your like eyeball? All right, then you're ready for lashes. So let's talk about direction and also giving yourself guidelines. Real fast. All right, the other thing I would say is what people aren't doing is match the value of your eye. So if your eye is near black in the picture, it's going to be, I mean, you don't have to do it straight up black, but it's going to be pretty dark. So I would like get my shadow on there first and then decide what direction. And I'm going to go around the little reflected piece. And then where the shadow is, I'm just going to add more every time. Okay, so it's darker kind of fading out. So then I would add darker fading out, darker along the edges. Probably another layer. So you're going to have to build up and kind of look at like, do I have light shining in the eye? Do I see additional reflections? And that's what's going to make your eyes look alive. So if you don't have that little speck of light, we're going to add it in before you get going. Okay, so for lashes. I recommend guidelines for those as well. And I don't have another color up here with me. Otherwise, I do that in another color. I'd also look for like, what direction do they grow? Usually in the corners, they're growing out. and then towards the outside edges, they'll kind of curve up a little bit, and then inside edges, they might grow in. It kind of depends on your lashes though. I would look at this crease above the eyelid and how far above it do the eyelashes go. So you might, for some of you, you have lovely long lashes, and they might go above the eyelid crease, but I'd look at like how much space is between my eyebrow and the lashes. So I do a couple guidelines first, and I'd probably do them in pencil, that way you can fix it. And eyelashes will be last after you add your mark making to create form, because your eyelashes are on top. Okay, so then I would go over my guidelines, and then I would, so that still looks a little bit fake. So then I would kind of fill in, because your lashes have different sizes. So some short, some long, short flicking away. Always go over your chunks again. And then lower lashes, same thing. I would look at how far down do they go, what direction. If you're looking in a different direction, then your eyelashes change direction. So whatever direction you're looking in, usually you're gonna see like the tips of the lashes. So note, I mean, this person's looking towards the right-hand side, so you can kind of see lashes to the right. Notice how you can't really see them here. So I probably, like, just to, I mean, you would do like the mark making. Or if your eyelashes grow out straight and they're long, so then in the photograph it doesn't look like they're there very much, well then you can kind of like do a little scribbly out past, just to add a little texture to make it look like there are lashes. So you could fake it a little bit, especially if your eyes are big on your drawing. You're going to want some extra detail. The other thing would be to look in the mirror. So for some of you, you're like, my lashes hardly show up in pictures at all because they're like not a lot of them. So you might have to look in a mirror and actually look at the direction and add guidelines and look from, and try to look in the same direction you're looking in your photograph. All right, then if you're looking up or down, I would still, if you're looking down, I would look at how far below the crease can you see. And if you're looking up, then you probably can see like underneath a little bit more. So I'd look for a waterline underneath, and I look for how high the lashes go. Real quick for eyebrows. So for eyebrows, I would start, regardless of the type of mark making you're going to do, I would start by adding a few guidelines for the direction of the hairs. And kind of fill in a little bit, especially if you have dark eyebrows. Then if you're using another technique like stippling, cross-hatching, whatever kind of other technique you're using, then I would layer it in there. So if I am using cross-hatching, Sharpie's like dying. But then I would, let me get that part in there. I would still go back and do another layer over the hairs so it shows direction, because that's also going to create the form. It helps create the form of your eyebrow, so, or your eyebrow line, I guess you could say. If you can't see direction of eyebrow hairs, look in the mirror and just add some with pencil for guidelines. And then let's say I was going to do like, I'm just going to do hatching, but maybe, and I'm doing stippling, well then I would stipple in where the dark parts are, but always start with hatching. All right, so for many of you, you probably need to value map your eyeball. I would look for where is it the whitest. You can kind of squint your eyes and make them fuzzy. And you usually have shadow in the corners, and usually have shadow underneath your lash line. And that kind of sets your eyelid on top of the eyeball and pushes your eyeball back a little bit, and then your eyes don't look crazy. So if you have specific questions, or if you never drew a pupil, I'm going to come around today and see if you have any questions about eyes or hair, since that demonstration was yesterday.